Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
When the hunt matters, trust the gear that's built to perform. At Scree Gear, we design premium hunting apparel that keeps you comfortable, concealed, and ready for whatever the mountain throws your way. From early season spot and stalk hunts to late season extremes, Scree Gear is trusted by hunters who refuse to compromise. And if you want to sharpen your skills and follow real hunting adventures, watch Scree TV on Waypoint TV. Visit ScreeGear.com to gear up today. Then catch Scree TV on Waypoint TV and experience the hunt like never before.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today we're going to talk about the unexpected, right? We're going to talk about cold weather in Texas, getting caught off guard. Now, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about preparing for no electricity, getting stuck in the cold. But I also want to talk about, kind of getting caught off guard and preparing for the things that are out of the norm. A lot of people are like, oh, climate change and whatever. Well, I mean, now remember, just to believe in climate change does not mean that you have to be all like, oh, we caused it, or even if we did cause it, we can fix it. We're not trying to get you to change your whole lifestyle. We'll leave that to the politicians. Maybe the Paris Accord will get to the bottom of that and straighten everyone out.
Yeah, I wouldn't stop burning tires in your backyard just yet.
Just yet. But just the same, it is possible that, like, if you ever read the Farmer's Almanac and they talk about, sunspots and different things, turns out the climate used to be a little bit different here on planet Earth. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys realize this, there was something called the Ice Age and different things. Like I said, it's irrelevant. Believe what you want. I'm sure you'll take offense to something I say either way. So I'm going to offend you both. You'll both be okay. But to get to the thing, sometimes unexpected things with weather does happen and we can get caught off guard. Now, there is some kind of toolkit we can get to prevent climate change. Is that something we're understanding?
Yeah, so Greta Thunberg is sending out toolkits. Now, I was thinking this toolkit was like a
list of
no,
right. Well, yeah. I thought it was like a list of things that I might go get to be ready to create anarchy or whatever.
No,
and honestly, I still am not clear. I searched it for a half hour on the internet, and I still don't know what the fuck she's talking about. But you're saying it might be an idea? It's a list of ideas?
It's a list of ideas on how to do stuff. Like there was a toolkit for Hong Kong, and in that toolkit it had things like wearing a gas mask and covering your face so that, the cameras can't recognize you, wearing a helmet, things like that you can do to keep yourself safe, even though you're fighting Chinese government, which is
so
generally
you're saying that Greta Thunberg was against a tyrannical government?
Yes, and right now she's dealing with Indian farmers. That's the big one now.
Now, so is this like one of these where because I saw this play out with Germany and Russia a long time ago, right? There's something about you want to get rid of one tyrannical government so you can institute your own tyrannical government. Is that
right,
what we're going for here?
Yeah, that's the difference. Now you're in
You'll
charge.
do it better? Okay.
Right.
Because I know she wants to tell everybody what to do. I see all kinds of lists. She's like, we have to do this, 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 and this.
Now,
and if you don't,
here's a little known secret. Greta Thunberg didn't actually write that toolkit.
What?
That wasn't her. She didn't even come up with it. She just tweeted it.
Ah.
Now it has things like links to articles and shit like that. Keep yourself from getting arrested. It didn't work out in India though because they just arrested somebody that retweeted her tweet.
All right. So, all right. Now, did she tweet any out for America? Is there any way, did she send a list of how to overthrow the American government?
Yeah. What she said was that we had to make a fake winter storm in Texas.
Yes, let's do that. No, I did hear something. You had mentioned when we were discussing this previously that there might be some fake snow.
Yeah, so
in Texas?
Yeah, I got into the conspiracy theories a little bit on this one, and there's some gold in there. I tell you what. So
now I did see messages from Todd in the Facebook group, and Todd seemed to think it was pretty real. He said something about freezing his nuts off or something, and having to get extra heaters, and he wasn't happy. I did see him in like a cigar lounge or something. I'm not really sure what's happening there, but
all I can tell from the pictures on Facebook is he has a legit man cave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, gotta appreciate something like that.
All right. So anyway, so tell me about what's going on in Texas. They're having fake snow.
Yeah. So there's fake snow. I'm not in Texas, so I can't corroborate this, but apparently there's fake snow in Texas, and it was made by Joe Biden. He was the one responsible for this one.
That's making a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now I dug into this
because people like guns in Texas too, right? Right. Yep. I'm seeing why they're the ones having problems.
Now, this one I chased it down as far as I could, but it just petered out and has no backing, has no references. It's just shit.
I was told it is real snow, and the way they did it was Bill Gates was involved.
That's right, Bill Gates. Yep.
Now, Bill Gates, he's blocking out the sun. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, and this is another one that I searched and it really just led to nowhere. There's no you would think like with something like that, a statement saying Bill Gates is blocking out the sun, you'd think you'd have like some sort of reference, but there was nothing. It just nothing. This one's just completely made up. So, as fun as it is, I don't believe that Bill Gates is actually trying to.
Isn't he though? Isn't he? All right. So moving right along.
He invented the internet for all of us, and then we just used it to shit all over him.
Let's not disrespect Al Gore.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That would be for those of you who didn't know that Al Gore single-handedly invented the internet. Just so you may or may not be true. But anyway, moving right along. So the idea is, we were just having some fun there. But we do get caught by surprise and unexpected. I definitely had this past 2, maybe 3 years ago. I think it's got to be 3 Christmases ago now that around New Year's Eve, it actually was New Year's Eve, my furnace died. And it was a simple thing and a part that I could get at Lowe's, but of course it died at 8:00 at night on New Year's Eve. And that means Lowe's isn't till the next day. And I still had electricity. I just needed a new nozzle for my oil burner. Not a big deal. I mean, I ended up it was weird. I was able to clean it out. It would run for an hour and then it would clog up again. So obviously I was doing a piss poor job cleaning it out, whatever. Doesn't matter. And for a $7 part, it kind of sucks that you don't have it on hand. And honestly, I usually was keeping them. So I don't know what happened. But either way, I fell apart on that one.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, no matter what you do, you can always get caught with something unexpected. And that can happen. And that can be where you just don't have power to run your stove, deal with your appliances. Obviously climate control is an issue with when you don't have power. You might not be able to run your air conditioning. Obviously, going without air conditioning isn't quite as dramatic as going without heat, because, you know, you end up with things freezing and being like that, and obviously can really be a dramatic issue. Now, some people do have health conditions that, you know, the heat can really significantly cause more damage than to the rest of us. So that's something you want to be aware of and plan for. Now, one, it really depends on your heat source. So, like, if you had an oil burner, you know, I read about people are like, oh, I ran out of oil. Well, obviously, you can go buy kerosene or diesel and fill it up in your oil tank, and that will work and burn fine, and you will have no problem. Usually, I mean, I don't know where they use oil aside of the Northeast, really. It's not really the go-to for a lot of places. In the South, they all use propane, just again, because you're not using as much, and you end up actually paying more, I think, for the propane. People do have propane or natural gas heat in the North, but natural gas, yes. The propane, not so much, just because you're filling your tank all the time, you know, because it is so cold. Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of additional heaters would you think? Like, I mean, I know I used to have a kerosene heater, which I've had mixed results. Now, I know actually Kevin uses one of these for like an extra space he has to try and heat with the kerosene heaters. Those, when you read them, they say K1 kerosene is what you want to use. And I know when I was in New York, it was like 1 out of maybe 5 gas stations would have a kerosene pump. And that would be the K1. If it says kerosene, you're probably okay. When you light these, a lot of people like to light them outside because they might smoke for the first 2 or 3 minutes. I know I don't think Kevin does, but again, it's not a nice finished space. Maybe I don't know how you do it. Do you light it inside? Or?
Yeah. I mean, if you use the K1 kerosene, which is basically all kerosene, it's not, you know, there's not a whole bunch of different grades and shit. Basically, you're not supposed to use diesel fuel in it, which you can.
Will smoke. It will smoke.
It will smoke, and it's not like a pleasant smell. Kerosene burn a lot cleaner.
Right. I used to know somebody who was really cheap.
Heater, and it's, you know, it's effective. It puts out a lot of heat, but, you know, again, it's something you have to watch. You know, you don't want to just turn it on and leave it alone. You want to keep an eye on it because it is a fire hazard if you're not careful about it.
Well, you run into the dog kicking it over or whatever else, something like that. You know, fireplace, great idea. A lot of people in Texas have fireplaces. Do you have set firewood already kind of set aside and ready to go? That may be something to consider. Yeah, I'm thinking out in the country. I don't know, in the city, I guess nobody has fireplaces, or they're gas, or I don't know. Again, if you're hooked up to natural gas, having a gas fireplace, not too bad of an idea. I don't know. You kind of really are limited. There's definitely electric heaters, but again, you still need electricity. And, you know, I mean, I actually got that time on New Year's where I got stuck. I actually had a electric fireplace, which ended up saving me, you know, where I was able to keep the house about 55. 55 sounds really cold to you guys, but in New York, 55 sounds pretty good compared to 5 degrees outside, or, you know, balmy whatever shit. Else. Yeah, that's balmy, you know. So now I keep my house like
right now up here in New York.
You're 40?
14.
14. Yeah. I think where I am in my secret undisclosed location, unless you heard that episode with my wife, it is, wait for it, I have no idea. I was outside. It felt like 40. I think around 40, but who really knows? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, when it comes to cold weather, you know, like what they always say is there's no such thing as weather that's too cold. there's just inappropriate clothing.
Is that right?
And, yeah, that's right. So no matter how cold it is, you need to dress for it.
Yeah.
And if you live in Texas, the majority of your clothing might be shorts and t-shirts. But what you want to do with that sort of stuff when you don't have like a big thick down coat or anything like that, you want to build in layers. So you want to have basically thin synthetic fibers on the base layer, touching your skin, something that's going to wick moisture away. And then you want to stack layers on top of it. And your outermost layer, you want to have, some sort of animal product, either goose down or leather or wool. You want something that's not going to let moisture in on the outside. So you want to just stack up your layers.
Where you can, I always see people at Walmart and they have the what is it? Is it flannel? I don't know. The pajamas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That you see them wearing when they're out shopping.
Yeah.
You could just stack like 6 or 7 pair of those, I think, and just be
stack them right up, man. Sweatpants, whatever you got, just make sure you have layers on, because each layer is going to trap a little bit more air, and the trapping of the air is what's going to keep you warm.
Also, wearing shoes, believe it or not, will help with your heat loss. Obviously decent socks, but shoes will add to that. The idea is to think ahead and cover these options. And, over and over again, we talk about, how important it is to, cover your downside, to plan for the unexpected. And no, nobody thinks we're going to get hit with a snowstorm in Texas, but then you also don't think, well, yeah, but I have my electric heat and it sucks and it'll run, but whatever. Well, you didn't think you were going to get snowstorm and no power. Now, obviously, those two things go together. You see how ice and tree limbs falling, could dramatically affect, how that all works, because you don't plan your power lines. We saw that one of the things I saw in one of the Facebook groups was they were talking about people were standing at truck stops where, because they weren't plowing the roads, they weren't able to bring fuel in. And then they weren't able, because the roads weren't cleared, they weren't able to resupply the food in the truck stop. Because in your mind, you're like, well, I can always stop and, get food here.
Yeah.
Right. Ride it out. Well, that didn't work out. And so that was kind of a thing. They were saying it was going to be like 7 days with no food and water. And, I was watching about locals, going out with the big pot of chili and stuff and looking out for people and helping their neighbors out, which is obviously something awesome that you could do. But, helping your neighbors is not a bad way to go. But,
yeah, I saw a lot of people there were short on food. And to me, that seems like a basic thing that you should have been planning for. I know most of you guys that listen to the show, we preach up and down about having 2 weeks of food and water stored, but a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people have what they have in their cabinet, and when it runs out, that's it, man. 3 days maybe, and then they're shit out of luck.
Yeah. And that's, these are the wake up calls. You need to look at the signs, when they happen. You get so many warnings and then all of a sudden you get caught where you don't have a way out of it. And you need to prepare for that. And that's, this whole lifestyle, it's taking care of business and doing what we got to do. But you need to think ahead and plan. It's your responsibility to take care of your family.
Yeah.
Again, the election
here is when you're cold, you really need your calories. You're going to burn through a lot of calories keeping your body warm. Shivering for 1 hour, that's not doing anything else, just shivering. That's 400 calories an hour that you're consuming.
Yeah.
So, your body really needs a lot of fuel to keep yourself warm in situations like this where you can't go and reheat inside, or you can't necessarily just warm back up, run inside and warm back up, because it's not, it's just nonstop. And so you have to be able to fuel your body to be able to make sure that it operates at, peak performance.
Yeah. But think of all the things, you count on with electricity: proper lighting, proper, be able to run your house efficiently, to get your kids off to school, the transportation, all right, you're stuck home for 2 weeks now because they're not going to plow the roads and we just have to wait for the snow to melt, which is a ridiculous idea to anybody who's lived in, the North or whatever. But, hey, I guess you get caught off guard every now and again.
I get mad up here in New York if I'm driving on the road and it's not plowed and it's still snowing. It's still snowing, exactly. And I'm angry that there's snow on the road.
Right,
I'm
right.
Spoiled up here.
So, but I mean, if you end up in a position, all right, now you have kids at home, they're chilly and uncomfortable, the power's not on, so now their phones and their games are slowly dying after a day or two. They're working through their various things. Do you have extra batteries on hand? Do you have, all the different supplies that you need? Do you have a generator? That's something. How do you not consider, having some kind of backup source of electricity or some kind of way? Now, we all decide. Now, some of you are like, I can live without electricity, no problem. And some of you really can and have no problem going without it, and have developed a lifestyle and, working with things, found ways to do stuff where they use minimum or no electricity. Well, that's great, but some of you haven't. And you need to find a way to accommodate things and start to look at, Kevin had mentioned kind of breaking into the camping supplies and things like that. That's where, your better sleeping bags, might come into play, or having, the stove percolator for your coffee. I'd mentioned in the past about not being able to grind my coffee beans. Obviously, you can chop them up with a knife and do what you have to do, but it's not quite the same,
Not the same. They
Not
have to
the
be
same.
ground to a specific size. Otherwise, the coffee's not going to taste right.
The fine grain, the medium grain, you have a setting, coarse, whatever. But that's the thing is to plan and be prepared for these kind of things. And when we get caught off guard, it really can throw you. So, that's where I wanted to go with this. Is just, start to look at what's around you, what's happening. Understand the world is changing. Things, your political environment is definitely changing. Your climate is changing. Things are different. We're in a whole new climate zone, where we're planting now than we were 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Things are different, and that's fine. And whatever it is, what it is. And, if you feel there's something you can do to make that different, great. If you're just adapting and learning to, deal with the world that you live in, then I would say take that action, but start taking the steps to prepare for it. Do what you got to do to take care of your family and your stuff. That's how the world works. That's what preparing is. So put your house in order and keep things moving.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You want to touch? I wanted to just go over a couple of basics on cold weather, survival.
All right.
One of those things is beware of dehydration.
Okay.
You don't think about it because you're not necessarily sweating, but you need to make sure you're drinking enough liquid that you're taking a piss every few hours. The air is a lot drier, so you're not breathing in any humidity. You're only breathing out humidity, so you're losing water every time you take a breath. And staying hydrated is really important in cold weather. Another thing to think about is how you're dressing. Now we talked about dressing in layers. We talked about, making sure you've got proper footwear on. But one thing to think about is a lot of people will have the regular size shoe, their shoe that's their size, but they'll load up on 3 or 4 pairs of socks, and it'll really tighten up that boot. And what you're doing is you're going to actually end up slowing down the circulation in your feet, and it's going to actually make them colder. So what you want to do is have, one really good pair of socks, one good pair of wool socks on with your boots. You don't want to just stack up a bunch of cotton socks on top of each other, because it's not going to help out in the long run. You want to stay away from alcohol when it's really cold out, because it's going to thin your blood a little bit, and your circulation's going to drop down. Now, me personally, I think that's a fair trade. I would rather have my whiskey and be cold than have to be sober through all that bullshit. But, everybody make your own choices when it comes to that sort of stuff. Another thing is keep moving. Your body creates heat every time you move, and it's gonna keep you warmer. As long as you're in motion.
Right. But again, burning calories, so just be aware of it.
Right. Another thing that, it's sad that we have to say anything, and it's sad that it happened, but a woman and her either a daughter or granddaughter died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Definitely a thing.
To keep warm, and that's going to happen. You can only run a car like that, and for a certain amount of time, in a confined space like this before you start
running the grill indoors. See, you know what it is? Growing up in the Northeast, we see these same things play out over and over again, and we hear all the stories. And to people who live in that environment, this just sounds ridiculous. And, well, yeah, of course. But people who haven't been in that environment where people do any radical thing to heat their house, people damage their stoves all the time by just turning their oven on and leaving it on bake with the door open and using the electricity from their stove to help heat their house. Honestly, that's not necessarily dangerous. It's just bad for your stove. But we've seen people run their grill in their house. Carbon monoxide ends up doing them in. Not understanding their fireplaces or, working the flue correctly or something like that. People who aren't used to it and don't know the proper steps to take, they're like, oh, I should take a chance on this. Or maybe you weren't using your fireplace because I don't really know about the chimney. It might be suspect, but I'm going to use it now because I'm desperate,
There were a lot of house fires because of legitimate, fireplace fires that just, they hadn't been used in 100 years. And it was just all
squirrels build a nest or whatever.
All full of nasty shit. And before you know it, now you're freezing your ass off outside instead of inside because your house is gone.
There you go. That's not a good way to be. Do you have more on that list, or I have some stuff? But
go ahead.
All right. So I basically was looking. Somebody posted a basic prepper list, and this is more geared towards the cold weather and kind of what you're seeing now, in Texas. I know it's coming to an end, but they said, number one on the list was having a French press, getting around that coffee issue. The My Buddy heaters with the propane canisters. There's something you can throw. Yeah, you can throw $100 at something, right? Because they're pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, I think it was $40 actually when I got it.
Right, but I'm saying, and you buy several propane canisters.
Right.
You could really cover. Now, it might be hard to go out and buy that right now. Well, there's a crisis in Texas. It might be hard to go find that in Texas. But if you had planned a little bit, these are something maybe you plan for next time. Because guess what? This might actually happen again. Wool socks, great thing to run out and get. A little bit of canned extra food, but think of stuff that's easy to prepare without your oven. That's what you want. A lot of stovetop stuff, because a lot of people have grills with a stovetop burner. Meals that are prepared that you can do like that would be awesome. the fireplace, well, actually, this lady was saying a fireplace blower for your gas fireplace to kind of, when you do have electricity, to really circulate the air. Filtration pitchers, she was saying have like 3 designated large bowls. You know those plastic containers people use when they go camping for doing dishes? Something like that, to be able to wash, rinse, and then maybe sanitize your dishes. Because when you're working with cold water, having a little bleach in a third container is, the nice option. They were saying tea and juice bottles, maybe save some, or the 2-gallon soda bottles, whatever, so that you can have stored with water. I know we actually buy water and we save those containers and reuse them for, like right now, I shut off the water to the barn because it's cold out and the lines might freeze. So what I end up doing is we take out the water jugs and, fill the animal water with those. It makes it a little bit easier. They were saying portable chargers, a portable generator, or a house generator if you can pull that off. They had mentioned maybe an insulated rain barrel. Now, if you just had that constantly going out of your gutter or something, now obviously there's all kinds of great websites where you can set up how to filter water for your rain barrel and make it pretty cool. And then you can take that inside to your better filter and then, actually use that for drinking. But maybe you consider that for toilet water, flushing the toilets, right? You don't have to worry about filtering that again. And I'm assuming you've already bought, 12 gallons or 18 gallons of water for drinking. And that way you have water that, you're less worried about for your toilets and keeping things going. Obviously, depending how long this goes on, you need different amounts of water and you need to kind of figure out how to prepare for it.
Now, a lot of people in Texas are dealing with an issue with, their water is restored, but they've got boil water notices, meaning that the water is available, but it's not necessarily safe to drink. Now, you can use that water for everything without boiling it, aside of drinking. You can use it for flushing your toilets. You can use it for washing your hands. You can use it for taking a shower, but you just can't drink it. Now, most of the time, that water that is under the boil water notice is safe to drink, but they're just recommending you boil it out of an abundance of precaution. And there's nothing worse than, shitting your fucking brains out. Because you were stupid and you drank the water you shouldn't have been drinking.
Right. And then, right. But yeah, there you go. There's that. Another thing that people who don't live in cold climates get thrown off by a lot, and even people up in the north, maybe the first time it happens, ice and snow every year, is having something to scrape off your car and cleaning out, making sure that in general, as a general life rule, you shouldn't have water in your radiator, like people do all the time. Now, actually, in some places, like I assume in Texas, people need it to be radiator fluid also to not overheat as well. But you definitely don't need that freezing on you. So make sure that those things are correct, that you have windshield washer fluid that's not just water. Again, people do that. They just pour water in there because they're like, well, I live in Texas. What's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem? Now, if you have an issue with not having windshield washer fluid, you can be blind in 5-10 minutes once you're driving behind a semi, in a snowstorm. You're gonna have to clean that windshield off. Now you can just use just pour water and rubbing alcohol in there. Get a strong mixture of rubbing alcohol with that water, and it'll melt off the ice as it gets sprayed on there, and it'll at least clean somewhat your windshield so you can see.
Because you always have rubbing alcohol driving down the road on the.
I always do.
No,
maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'm willing to put that on the table. Another thing people might want to consider, even if you're not like a regular tea drinker, but a tea kettle. That makes things kind of easy when it comes to boiling things like that. Snow shovel. I bet you a lot of you guys in Texas are like, damn, if I had a snow shovel, I know on my road, what we did is just me and every one of my neighbors for about 20 miles, we just all have a tractor and we can go push the, and I mean, we all, like every house there. Yeah, they got that worked out. Rice, pasta, things, dry beans, basically stuff that you can prepare, again, with just stovetop cooking. Can opener, that when you're breaking into the store, some people only have electric options. I never really had an electric can opener. I've seen them in movies, but, to me, a can opener is a given, but, who knows? Oil lamps with smokeless fuel. That's something people don't consider, and that's a lot better than candles, although candles will work and work fine. Faucet covers for outside. In the north, we actually have our outdoor faucets for the hose and that kind of thing. What they do is the shutoff valve is actually inside the house. It'll be like a foot long, and you'll have the handle on the outside, but the valve will be on the inside. So that's not a big thing. But in the South, people don't do that kind of thing. And they actually sell little insulated covers that you can put over the valve to keep it a little bit warmer, because you're hoping it's not going into the deep freeze, 5 degree, minus 10 degree, that kind of thing. When you're in that 25 or higher temperature, those will work just fine. The next step, again, something people do in the north, not really something anybody's aware to think of in the South, is you can shut off the water to that outside faucet from the inside. And, it might be somewhere, but that's the thing. In the north, you plan your house so you can just shut that off. Whereas in the South, it might be in a leg where you're shutting off a bathroom and that in order to shut off that outside faucet. But when you have that really cold night or two, you might want to shut it off at least at night to keep that going. Also, you might want to keep in mind you can leave water dripping. Moving water usually will not freeze. So if you leave it dripping a tiny bit, you can kind of keep that water from freezing solid, and that's better than getting stuck. One of the last things, flashlights or lanterns, again, electric lanterns as opposed to the other, and maybe some long johns, dressing appropriate. Back to that. You have any more ideas or ideas for a show topic or things you want to tell us about? You can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, stay warm, and we will talk to you guys next week.
The Survival and Basic Badass Podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.